I've always believed, in one hero in particular. When I saw his first film as a child, I knew immediately that I wanted to make movies one day. He inspired me so much that I even named my first daughter after him. That's her, Indiana. The most beautiful thing I've ever made. You see, for people like me, heroes are very important because they make us who we are. And then you grow up and life hits you in the face like an Antarctic blizzard. And before you know it, heroes and all the reasons that made believing in them so important are forgotten. Until the day you meet one in person. For me, that day was somewhere in September 2011. When chance introduced me to the bravest two men that I will meet in my lifetime. Bram Herbe and Peter van Kitz. But before you meet Bram and Pete, you must understand why you're meeting them. And for that, we have to go all the way back to 1911, to a rather chilly place. Welcome to Antarctica. Please allow me to introduce two of the world's most famous Arctic explorers, Englishman Robert Scott and Norwegian Roald Amundsen. Around the same time in the year 1911, they embark on separate Arctic expeditions with exactly the same goal: to reach the South Pole. A very confident Scott, certain of success for king and country, is unaware of Amundsen's expedition until October 1911, when he receives a telegram from the Norwegian himself. With this short 3-word sentence, Scott's expedition to the South Pole becomes a race to the South Pole. But the Englishman remains undeterred by the Norwegian threat.
Us to proceed as though this has not happened.
Scott sticks to his original unorthodox strategy that would see them using ponies, dogs, and motor sledges for the trek to the pole.
I feel sure we are as near perfection as experience.
Amundsen decides on the more traditional method, using sleds and dogs only. He can't pack as much food as Scott, but is able to move quicker with 52 dogs pulling 4 sleds. It's a risk that Amundsen is willing to take, even if it means killing and eating some of his dogs. The man in charge of handling Scott's ponies makes a similar suggestion to him, but the Englishman refuses.
I'm afraid you'll come to regret not taking my advice.
On 20 October 1911, Amundsen and team start their journey to the pole from their base camp in the Bay of Whales, heading for the Axel Heiberg Glacier. Departing from Ross Island, Scott's caravan of mixed transport begins their march south on 1 November towards the Beardmore Glacier. It takes Amundsen and his men 55 days to complete the 800-mile journey, reaching the South Pole on 14 December 1911. "34 days later, on the 17th of January 1912, Scott and his team knew they had reached the South Pole when they discovered the Norwegian flag and small tent left behind by Amundsen. Sitting at exactly 90 degrees south, the Norwegian flag signals both defeat and the finish line of the race for Scott and his team.
The worst has happened. All the daydreams must go. Great God, this is an awful place.
With only 11 dogs pulling 3 sleds, Amundsen's team returned safely to base camp in the Bay of Whales on 25 January 1912. Scott and his team never make it back. On 12 November 1912, their bodies are discovered by a search party and their records retrieved. Most famously, Scott's diary.
Lost entry. For God's sake, look after our people.
As rivals competing against each other, Robert Scott and Roald Amundsen conquered the last remaining wilderness on Earth. The 1911 race to the South Pole will always have only one winner, but history celebrates both men for the incredible courage and bravery they showed to reach 90 degrees south. Robert Scott and Roald Amundsen. same race that saw Amundsen become the first man in the world to reach the South Pole. The very same race that cost Scott and his men their lives still takes place today in Antarctica. In what's become known as the world's toughest endurance race, competitors get to retrace the footsteps of Amundsen and Scott's epic 800-mile journey to the South Pole. But at a price. A race ticket will set you back about 60,000 euros. If you manage to survive that, the lifeless, unforgiving cold of Antarctica awaits, where you'll face the same challenges that Scott and Amundsen did, as well as their odds at survival. Sounds like the worst, most expensive holiday in the world. And yet, the race to the South Pole sees more and more entrants each year. The man responsible for reviving the legacy of Scott and Amundsen's epic race is Tony Martin of Extreme World Races. He's also the best person to explain why people pay this much money just to risk their lives.
It's a $1 million question, and I've been asked it 1,000 times. There's a time in people's lives, everybody will associate to this, where you just want to make a change. You just want to do something different. Myself in particular, I was sitting in a boardroom and I had somebody on the end of the phone giving me a hard time about, I think it was 37 pence error in a tax bill. Why it even got to me, I don't know, but it did. And I picked up a poster that I had stuck on a wall 6 months before, and it was a race to the magnetic North Pole in 2003. And I literally looked at it, read it, and I decided to do it. Preparation meets opportunity. So 3 years ago, we decided to make the first attempt to a trial run, let's call it. And we made a program called On Thin Ice with the guys from the UK. And we had a number of teams, in particular the Norwegians. And we tested both the vehicle support, the filming infrastructure, and the race itself. And we learned a lot, to say the least. We then moved on to the following year, where we tested some small changes around the infrastructure of what we were doing. Film crews, safety crews, all the different elements required different things within the infrastructure. And the problem with Antarctica, if you don't take it in, that's it. There is no FedEx, DHL, Overnight Express, so you've got to get it right.
And the same goes for the contestants. Getting anything wrong is simply not an option. EWR's race to the South Pole is 100% unsupported, which means you're on your own for most of the race, and everything you need to stay alive you carry with you for over 700 kilometers. Safety teams are in place, but a mistake, even the smallest little mistake, is the one thing you don't want to make along your trek to the South Pole. At minus 45, freezing to death takes only a few minutes.
Extreme World Races specialises in long endurance survival races. They're 3 to 5 weeks long. These are not one-day events, 3-day events. They're 3 to 5 weeks long. So you have to live and survive this entire duration. You walk basically for 12, 14, 18 hours in a time. It's going to have problems on your joints and your mind. But all the competitors are moving about 2.5 kilometers an hour. It's walking pace, basically. But it's the psychological aspect of the monotony of moving for this kind of time, where there's absolutely nothing but white. So all you can see color-wise is if you're at the back, you can see the person in front of you. If it's not a whiteout. The brain normally in the real world, let's call it, you've got sound, you've got color, you've got smell, you've got constant barrage of advertising, marketing, media, and your brain's not really, it's in a turmoil all the time. All of a sudden they arrive in Novo, which is the airbase, the Russian science airbase that we use to enter Antarctica. And now there is no sound, no smell, no animals, no insects, nothing, no distraction, no noise other than the noise you make yourself. So if you're constantly humming, that's all you can hear. And if you don't like the humming sound, it's going to drive you mad. It literally will drive you mad. So we call this particular race, the South Pole, we market it as the best detox, physically and mentally, best detox you could possibly get. But the downside to that is that you have two things that happen. One, you then focus on every small detail. So if someone is snoring and there's 3 of you in the tent and the middle guy or girl is snoring, that is all you can hear, and it will drive you mad because you then can't go to sleep. If somebody is humming a tune that you hate, the problem with that is that tune ends up in your mind and it goes round and round and round and round and round like a broken record. It just keeps going on. So all these small things become major issues to deal with. So the arguments that will ensue, and they will be about the smallest detail, but it's all the other stuff that builds on top of this. The larger issue that they'll have is that their brain now has nothing else to focus on other than their life before. So all those things that gets pushed away in a box in the back of the brain with most people anyway, and you think there's a nice little lid on it, it doesn't. After about a day and a half, 2 days, the box opens. And all of these things flood back to the front of your brain, and you're constantly having to deal with all those other issues that you've dealt with all your life, and every single one of them will replay itself. So this is where the psychological aspect then starts to have an effect. So somebody could be having a bad day, and the other people won't necessarily know why, apart from the weather and it's cold here. It's because they're mind playing these things again. To deal with it, generally they should talk about it. So then all of a sudden you find yourself in this environment, Bram and Pete, who have known each other for a short time, I think, but everything about their lives, every detail, every secret they ever probably had will be shared between these two men. So when they leave Antarctica, they become completely a couple, not in a couple sense, but they become very, very close friends for the rest of their life.
In 2011, EWR's Race to the South Pole would be a special one, celebrating 100 years since Scott and Amundsen's infamous race. With a total of 7 teams from around the world competing this year, it would also be the biggest one hosted so far. For this centenary edition of the Race to the South Pole, Bram Malherbe and Pieter van Kets would be representing South Africa. So exactly are Bram and Pete? Well, they're the kind of men who require a rather unique introduction. Let's start with Bram. Age before beauty. The average jogging speed for the average human being is around 9 to 10 kilometers per hour, or 5 to 6 miles per hour. To jog from Cape Town to Johannesburg, that's 1,405 kilometers, would take the average jogger approximately 148 hours or 6 days. That's if they jog for 24 hours a day, every day, without taking a break, until they reach Joburg. Bram Malherbe must have looked at this fact and thought to himself, nah, that's too easy. Let's do something that no one's been crazy enough to do. And that's exactly what he did. In 2007, Bram and his running partner David Greer achieved a world first by running the entire length of the Great Wall of China in less than 100 days. The pair covered 4,200 kilometers at an average of 43 kilometers per day. And now, Pieter van Kets. The average speed for the average solo rower on open water is around 3.2 kilometers per hour, or 2 miles per hour. To row from Cape Town to East London, that's 862 kilometers, would take the average solo rower approximately 269 hours, or 11 days. That's if they rowed non-stop for 24 hours a day, every day, until they reach East London. Now, just like Bram, Pete must have looked at this fact, giggled like a schoolgirl and thought, nah, 11 days at sea is for sissies. Let's do 50. And that's exactly what he did. Pete and his mate Bill Godfrey became the first South Africans to win the Woodvale Atlantic Rowing Race in 2007. After completing the 5,478 kilometer journey in only 52 days, both men vowed to never ever do something this crazy again. Maybe Pete wasn't paying attention or something, because he returned 2 years later to do the same race, but this time on his own. When we go into the office every day, we risk bad coffee and boredom. These two men risk their lives, and they're brave enough to do it again and again because they can. Bram and Pete faced a much bigger challenge than the race itself. They had less than 3 months to get ready, and neither of them had ever set foot on ice. With other teams having trained for as long as 2 years, Bram and Pete knew that they were in a race to get ready for a race. And this is where I come in. It was my job to film their training and preparations over the months leading up to the race. It was going to be just another job for me, until I got to this point in the story. Every time I picked up the camera and saw Bram and Pete through the viewfinder, a question popped into my head. Could they be heroes? Real ones? The kind you think you'll never meet in person? Sounds ridiculous, right? But the question didn't go away. In fact, it got louder and louder until I decided to listen to it. And so, when Bram and Pete's journey to conquer the South Pole began, the greatest adventure of my life also did. I was on a quest to find a reason to believe again. And if Bram or Pete was going to be that reason, they would have to pass my what makes a hero test. It's more of a checklist, really, but totally legit, thanks to my good friends Google and Wikipedia. So, what makes a hero? 1. Heroes have character. A person of character is a good person, someone to look up to and admire. He or she knows the difference between right and wrong, always setting a good example. Just by being, a person of character makes the world a better place.
Ordinarily, we would not encourage anybody to go on this particular race and this distance in Antarctica, or any of our races actually, with 3 months' notice. That would be very dangerous. But in this case, Bram and Pete presented themselves as the individuals who they are.
And you know what my name is backwards?
Backwards?
Yeah. Retip Ekkel Navstek. Just for the record.
I put my foot on the bone. I mean, I've heard of toe rings, but this is now ridiculous.
Actually, there's a number of reasons which concerned us originally. One is they're both South African, so they don't do snow, and they hate the cold. Just like every other South African I've ever met, they don't do the cold. I like this place, that's where they live here.
I'm an African, I can't stand cold.
I'm happy with myself in -40, but I've only done it for a few days. What does it feel like after 2 weeks?
I've never been to Antarctica, so there's this mixed feeling of extreme excitement, anticipation, and also a degree of, let's be honest, a little degree of fear, a niggle of fear.
The whole South Pole thing for me is a brand new thing. I feel a little bit like, and I've said this before, I feel a little bit like the Jamaican bobsled team going off to the Olympics.
Fear generally is something I don't like to entertain in my life, but you know, if an antelope goes down to the waterhole and there's a lion present, there's a healthy fear. So this is an unknown for me.
You know, there's still that unknown, you know, what is it going to be like at -40, -50, day after day after day after day after day?
So I'm kind of looking at it like the Gobi Desert. It's a desert. It's the biggest desert in the world, the highest and driest desert in the world, and certainly the coldest desert in the world. So for me, that anticipation, that sense of adventure is overriding the fear.
And there's angst inside me now about it. There's definitely no two ways about it. And there's going to be a lot more angst on the day, the real day.
From what I gather, some of the other teams have been training as much as 2 years ago. They started their training program. Pete and I have been training for maybe not even 3 months.
Secondly, 3 months out with no training and no collective training, and was not so much of an issue, but the third issue was they'd never seen snow really before, and they'd never put skis on before.
I think the only stumbling block that we have, or have had, in our build-up to the race has been our lack of experience on ice and snow.
My main concern at this point is that I don't feel I've trained enough because of this knee injury.
I would like to obviously have spent another year training.
These guys took on a monumental task by coming to Iceland. And my entire safety crew, but none actually, was very impressed with, one, their enthusiasm. This whole race is about character.
You know, this race is about what happens inside your head.
90% of this race is in here, without a question. And if you don't have it in here, then they'll break down within a couple of days. In fact, they'll probably break down in the first day they arrive in Antarctica.
Because people think I'm totally insane, but I'm not insane. It's a person's perspective, I guess.
I end up talking to myself a lot. All day, and then I go, oh. It's like one of the first signs of going nuts.
And it's very apparent that both Bram and Pete have got it upstairs.
We have it in our legs, we have it in our minds that we can go long distances over long periods of time without rest.
It's a psychological race. Yes, it's an endurance issue as far as skiing 30, 40 kilometers a day.
Bram and I know our capabilities, and I think one of the strengths that we have is we know how to pace ourselves.
We believe that our background of long distance stuff is a huge advantage. None of these guys have done 800 kilometers in a single stint. Both Pete and I have done days and days and way longer than that.
If there was a person in South Africa who I thought had the head for something like this, it would be Bram.
Thankfully, Bram and Pete are already conditioned to do those kind of distances, so their body's used to that. What they've got to get used to is doing it at minus 30, minus 40.
So both Pete and myself, albeit from different situations, me on the land, him at sea, have got, I believe, the staying power.
We know what it takes to plan routines, staying happy, no conflict.
And also our age. We're not youngsters, and I see that as a positive, not as a negative. Yes, your body can injure easier, but Pete and I aren't going to do that. We're just going to go, and we're going to be like the tortoise and the hare, and we're going to be the tortoises, and we're just going to carry on and make it happen, because we both got the belief that we can.
I really believe that we have a very good chance of winning the race. And that's what I want to do. I would like to go and win the race.
You know what? If you've got big dreams, nothing's impossible. And so let's do this thing.
2. Heroes have purpose. What exactly is purpose? For those of us who are still looking, it's the most difficult thing you'll ever try to find. Because when you find your purpose, you'll know why you've been put here on this earth. You'll understand why you exist and what you need to do to exist happily. You know that stupid "what's the meaning of life" question? Purpose kicks its ass.
Obviously winning would be really cool, but I don't think it's good that he has it in his head to win. I think it's best that they just do it for themselves, so they can because it's quite a big thing to do it anyway, and just to get to the end. But I mean, if they have it in their head to win, that's cool, but I don't think it should be their main priority.
He's a survivor, and I know he'll pull through. He's got determination. His mind is right. He's not a motivational speaker for nothing. He knows how to motivate people as well as himself in extreme conditions. So I definitely think that he's going to live by his motto: nothing is impossible, and he'll make it.
I believe that anything is possible. My payoff line in life is nothing is impossible. An ordinary down-to-earth guy, ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things if you believe in yourself enough. So for me, it's very much this balance of mind over matter.
His whole nothing is impossible thing, it's true. You can really do anything you want to do.
He's a go-getter. He likes to get things done.
There's no barriers. It's only barriers you make are for yourself.
If there's anybody that can, then it's him. I mean, I don't know anybody who's got as strong a mind as he does. And as I said, that's why I have complete faith in him.
So if you believe it, you can achieve it.
I think Bram is an incredibly tenacious person. I've got to know him quite well.
David and I had known each other for 25 years. I've known Pete for really not even a year. So there are issues there, not negative issues, but obviously the better you know someone, there's an upside to it because you know the person's character, their dynamic, how they act under pressure, for instance.
That is an unknown. I don't know, and they don't know how they will interact with each other under those conditions. And so it may or may not be one of the biggest challenges, but it's definitely one of the biggest unknowns.
Pete doesn't know that about me, nor do I know that about him.
From what I've seen of Pete and Bram, I think that the partnership will be a good one.
Pete, I know him here, not so much headspace, but here. We spent quality time together, having deep intellectual conversations.
I think Pete and Bram really connect on quite a deep emotional level, which I think is amazing. I think that they are able to share quite deep emotions with each other.
Talking about values, morals, issues like that.
It sort of eliminates a lot of the loneliness, I think, because I think there's probably nothing more lonely than being out there in that situation and feeling lonely when you're with somebody, because you actually can't be intimate with them. Both Pete and Bram are very self-aware really, and they are in touch with their own emotions and they are able to speak about them. But I really just pray that they will be really good for each other, that they will be on the same side, you know, and I believe they will be.
Let's ignore the physical side. Let's look at the mental side. If you want to win a race like this, you have to have the right attitude towards the race. You have to have the right setup. There's many things that you have to prepare yourself for mentally to cope with the hardships that you're going to feel physically.
The suffering is worth it for the end. I mean, it's like childbirth, I suppose, or anything worthwhile is difficult while you're doing it. But the feeling of accomplishment at the end makes it all worthwhile. And I mean, there's no story to tell if it's not hard.
They have a lot of experience with outdoor living, let's say, and the administration of living outdoors and doing endurance distances.
I'm a wilderness kid. I love being outdoors. I love being in vast open spaces.
I think my fascination with extreme adventure or extreme sports really stems from my childhood.
I've always felt part of the earth.
I just always knew as a child and growing up that the career choice that I had to make in life would have to be something outdoors.
I've always felt I'm connected. I'm here to be. It's a sacred thing for me. This planet that we just absolutely, most people tend to take for granted. It's a very sacred thing.
My older brother Cram, Mark, you get that? Hey? Cram, Nodge, Navstick.
And you need two ingredients to be a good extreme adventurist, and the one is obviously you need to have you have to have the zest for it. You have to have passion.
Then I got into paddling with Pete, and that was where I really learned how hardcore Peter can actually be. I paddled with him in a couple races, and Peter doesn't go half measures, he goes balls to the wall.
His background of paddling the Atlantic, 76 days unassisted at sea, he's got the right headspace for this.
I mean, Peter's always done crazy stuff.
I understand how Pete thinks and how he operates, and as young kids, Peter he liked to sleep on the balcony, for example.
Peter was always very bright. Maybe not in the sense of academic things, but thinking, he was very bright.
It was actually something that my mother used to say to me too. She used to say that when she was pregnant with Peter, that she knew she was pregnant with somebody special, that he was going to do something amazing in his life.
He's a fantastic brother. I think he's a very passionate person as per se. I think he's got a lovely wife and kid, and I think it's the respect for everything he's got in his life. I think it's a respect for your family. I think it's a respect for this exquisite planet he lives on. His passion for life is all wrapped up in the whole decision-making process, and he has to go forward, and the only way he knows how to go forward is to embark on these crazy trips, as a lot of people call them.
I am very excited for him to go, but also I'm obviously worried, because it's dangerous and there are crevasses and it's very cold and, things can happen.
One has to always consider the fact that maybe you're not going to come home. For China, my son Benjamin at that stage was 17 years old. He spent a lot of time living with me. I was hugely part of raising him. And I had to consider the fact that I was going to leave my son fatherless, which is a huge consideration. He had to sign a contract that he was going to go and live with my friend Ian McPherson if I didn't come home. So it's a big one. And the same thing applies here. There's no guarantee that I'm going to come home alive.
And everything that I've done, all the expeditions that I've been on, you put your life on the line. It's a calculated risk. And there is the element of, so what happens if I don't come back? It happened to Robert Scott 100 years ago.
3. Heroes are loved, not because of what they do for others, because of what they stand for. Most of us will never know this kind of love because you can only find it in a person that allows you to be you and loves you unconditionally just for being you. No T's and C's, even if you're the guy whose day at the office is 3 months long.
I just very strongly believe that nobody should be stopped from doing those things that make them feel most alive. Least of all, by the people closest to them. And I think often out of fear, whatever, we try and stop the people we care about from being everything that they're meant to be. And I feel very strongly about that, and I know that to try and stop Peter from doing something like this would be to diminish him.
I'm living my dream, and I am able to make a living out of what I do, out of adventure. It is that thing that makes me feel alive, and because I do with that thing, it enables me to do so many other things. I think feeling that sense of purpose in your life is very important.
For Pete, the biggest difficulty is to be away from Hannah for an indefinite period of time.
I know that we live one life, and life is fragile, and the people and family and relationships that you have in life are the most important thing.
I would rather go out of this world trying to achieve something for the greater good than lie on my deathbed one day wishing I'd tried.
The ultimate success is to achieve what you set out to achieve. The reward for that success, and it's the ultimate reward, is to be reunited with Kim and Hannah again. That is, for me, the ultimate reward.
After a 4-day delay in Cape Town, Flight Y9173 touched down in Antarctica on the 23rd of December. Team spent the next 10 days acclimatizing. Bram and Pete spent at least half that time wondering, what the hell were we thinking?
Hey Pete, Merry Christmas, buddy.
Merry Christmas, Bram. How's this? We've woken up and it's Christmas Day, and Kim packed us some Christmas presents that didn't last. The packaging didn't last as well as it could have, but here it is. It's absolutely phenomenal. We've got Christmas crackers.
Got him some little crackers. I may not send all of them with him, you know, because of space and weight, but at least one for him and one for Bram.
A Christmas hat.
The little small one, Pete.
I got Pete a nice cats and hats Christmas hat.
Well, Pete, that works, eh? Because your hair wasn't looking so great.
This is from Hannah. To Dad, happy Christmas. We got you a jersey from Granny. And beer.
Very important, eh? Get our priorities right.
Some baby bottles of Drambuie.
And a little bottle of Drambuie. Woohoo! And no ways.
I got him and Bram some little Woolies Christmas cakes.
Christmas cake!
Awesome.
Okay. Oh no. See, now that's not bad.
Now you got lots of pics.
Jeez.
That's emotional stuff, eh?
No.
All Hannah pics, eh?
I found a tiny, tiny bottle of Tabasco, which will also make him very happy. It'll last for like one meal.
And?
Chili, let me guess.
Tabasco.
Very important.
And Bram, he has a present from Kim.
I have got a prezi.
To you.
This is so cool.
Yeah. Bram looks a little bit like a punched chicken.
Oh, he's down 2 days. I've been worn in. Yeah, I also got 2 Christmas crackers. And I also got, what is this? Christmas cake.
Pete, Merry Christmas. Have a lekker hike. I hope it's going well so far. And vastbyt, eh? Nyamazela.
Happy Christmas to everybody. As a Christian, I must say, I believe in Christ. Thank you.
Merry Christmas from a sunny SA. You're not in Beaverlake this year. You're in far, far away. Snow around you. You've got a white Christmas this year. You must enjoy, stay safe, and hopefully Pete is looking after you. I'm not there to take care of you. Yeah, so all the best and Merry Christmas.
Well, Pete, you've got this far. I think that you've got what it takes to go much, much further, and I'm so proud of you, and I love you, and I know that Mom would be so proud of you, and have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, and be safe.
Christmas is always a tricky time. It's an emotional time. It's supposed to be a family time, and it's supposed to be with all the people you love. But I can tell you something, you've probably got millions that are backing you on this one. So I think that your tree is full of presents this year.
I love you, Dad.
Happy Christmas, Brom. Merry
Christmas, yeah. Pete?
Yeah.
Okay, now, be honest there. Do I look good?
You look so good.
The race started late. If we include Cape Town delays of a couple of days, as well as there a couple of days, 3 days, probably 6 days late.
Before the start of the race, we were at a huge disadvantage.
Just the nervousness of wanting to get going takes its toll.
We weren't used to the ice and snow type of environment.
You know, this is way more a mental thing than physical.
We decided that during that build-up training session to get up onto the plateau in the South Pole, that we'd use that to gauge how far we were going to do and build a strategy.
It was a tightly wound spring. Everyone just...
And I think once we stood on the start line, we just knew that this race was done and that we were going to do it in a very strict, very controlled manner so that we would survive.
The getting going was also a huge hoo-ha and affair. You know, everyone's lined up, and you know, it's like we in an Olympic stadium on a track. I mean, where the heck are we going? You know, it's just like a white horizon over there, and 3, 2, 1, go! And everyone's single file. You know, it's not a sprint. I think it's just the nervousness for all of us wanting to move. And the Norwegians just went.
Day one of the race, and the competitors have all gone flying off down towards the South Pole. The weather, as you can see, is quite good. It's getting colder. What usually happens in the first few days is that the sort of red mist of the race descends. They totally forget about their personal care, and that's where I get quite worried. If they're going to get injured, they're going to get injured in this first leg, and particularly in the first few days. Their heads are down, they're skiing, they're forgetting about their hands and their faces. The Norwegians were streaking ahead. They're almost over the horizon compared to the rest of the competitors. And interestingly, it looks like they're taking a slightly different route compared to everyone else.
Long way to go. We'll probably camp before the rest of the teams do, just because it's the first day. You know, we don't want to go out and do a 14-hour day and just kill ourselves in the first few days. So we've still got a long way to go. You know, we chuffed. We've done almost our quota for the day. We've set ourselves a target of 35 Ks. We're almost at 35 Ks now. So we're going to carry on and hopefully hit 40. And if the weather stays like this, because it's magnificent, I mean, look at it. It's absolutely spectacular. If the weather stays like this, we will continue to 40 Ks. That'd be nice. It just depends how Brom and I are feeling at the time. But it's early days, eh? So, and how those Norwegians are just phenomenal. How I ever thought that there was a chance that we could beat them. It just blows me away. So, yeah, it's been a good day. I can't wait to get off these skis and just walk like a normal person again.
And just appreciation for the environment?
Do you know, I had no idea before I came to Antarctica. Even coming through the mountains, you know, on the training leg, on the acclimatization leg, I had no idea that it would look like this. It is spectacular. If you like this kind of thing, because it's flat-ish. We've been going up a hill for the last 4 hours, but it's just white, and there's sastrugi everywhere. You know, this area that we're going through now has got very little sastrugi, and so we're cruising quite nicely, even though we're going uphill. But further back, the first 25 kilometers were it was hectic. It was really, really hard work. So now what we're doing is we're just adjusting ourselves. We've never skied this far before. So now we're just adjusting ourselves to the kind of conditions and the environment that we're in. You know, we started off this morning in minus 25. It's warmed up a little bit now that the sun's come into our face. But it's still beautiful. So we're going to carry on for a couple of hours and then put up tent and have a little bit of a rest. And then take tomorrow as it comes. That's what we've decided. One day at a time. We're no heroes. We're just ordinary guys. And we just want to get to the South Pole and put that South African flag up. And it's just a chip and a putt.
Heroes don't get sick. Not once, since the bright spark of imagination dawned on humanity, has a single legend, fable, myth, fairy tale, novel, comic, cartoon, or film featured a hero that called in sick. I hate assumption and avoid her at all costs, because of her children, you see. But an assumption in this case, even for me, would be a sound one. If there's no mention of a sick hero, anywhere, at any time, it must be safe to assume that heroes just don't get sick, or that they have niggling knee injuries, or bad toes, right?
Yeah, my knee and my toe were the two other issues. The knee, every day I had physical pain in my right knee, on the inside of the right knee, and sometimes it would shift and it would go under the kneecap. But it wasn't, it was the forward motion on the ski, so that bend and the push forward would cause it. So I tried to adjust the ski style, not that I have any ski style whatsoever. But it was a manageable pain. So I was just saying, okay, is it getting worse? No, it's not. So can you handle it? Yes, you can handle it. So the issue was more mental again for me. If it gets worse and it's bone on bone, then I wouldn't be able to go.
Well, how are you feeling? How's the day going?
Always these last 2 hours are tough, but we're pacing ourselves, eh?
Yeah, there are lots of little niggles. We're just 35 k's a day, that's what we're doing.
Going at a decent pace.
Bram and Pete have had a great day today. We've witnessed them laughing and joking and even singing, which is a little bit strange because on the scheduled call yesterday and earlier on today, it was becoming apparent that Bram is suffering quite badly with his chest.
No problems, apart from this hacking cough of mine at night. And the doc is fired if he doesn't fix it.
No, he's had this problem before, and I thought that we'd fixed it with some steroid doses, etc., that he's been taking in the tent.
This cough of mine is very debilitating. I go fine in the day, and then at night I just hack and cough and retch and vomit and bring muck up, just blobs of muck actually.
However, by the end of today, they've done 35 kilometres, which is absolutely fantastic.
You know, the race is happening much further forward, I think, with the guys from Norway. They're just too fast for us, so we're plodding here at the back.
We are third from the back because we're picking them off one by one. There's a team in front of us, we're following them, we're going to catch them tomorrow. Cough or no cough?
Now, is Bram really pushing himself beyond his limits? We don't quite know yet. I'm slightly concerned about him as the race doctor because he's renowned for pushing and pushing and pushing until he actually drops down.
And the other thing is I've got this flipping knee problem, and it hurts all day, but it's mild. It's just from when I start to when I finish, the knee hurts. But you know what? If things don't hurt on this journey, then there's a problem. So it's about just coping with the pain a day at a time.
Like, I made such a big mistake. I was busy taking this off. I was sitting down, so I unclipped this, and I didn't know what to do with this. So I put it in my mouth. I grabbed it with my teeth. Little did I forgot that it was -25 and it stuck to my tongue. I had to rip a bit of my tongue off.
And that's how we're doing this. We're seeing this thing a day at a time.
What's your biggest concern?
Global warming.
You know, being out in this absolute desolate wilderness, I just can't help but think how the Earth's going to be 30 years from now if we don't fix the mess we've made. Pete!
I've got YouTube blaring in my ears, so I can't hear.
Don't make a fucking problem of mine. I've got it for the next hour. Okay, you're going to start again. Just going through the day, there's so much to think about, and I can't help but think how the Earth's going to be 30 years from now unless we adults fix the mess we've made for the sake of our children and, in fact, the biodiversity of all species. Again, I'm just reminded of how blessed I am to actually just be a citizen on this planet Earth, really. And also it just makes me realize, it emphasizes yet again my role here, to be a protector, to be someone who stands up for this beautiful Earth that doesn't say words in a language, but it speaks volumes. It gives us a life. Our whole existence depends on this fragile biodiversity, and that we preserve it. Can you imagine this? Completely melted, but not just in the summer months, forever. Because this section of France, in the next 15 to 20 years, will be dry. Can you believe it? With all of this ice and water around. Dry. We take things for granted and don't act until it affects us personally. And it's starting to affect us personally as individuals on this earth, particularly in Africa. We're already water impoverished. Cape Town is now having water restrictions. 2011 summer, water restrictions. Okay, that's enough from me. My arse is now getting piled. It is so desolate. There is no life whatsoever. I really hope it's not a sign of things to come.
I actually don't really have a concern. I'm just worried a little bit about Bram's chest. And he's got 1 or 2 niggles on his toes, a couple of blisters and an ingrown toenail.
But the issue is my right toe, because every morning it was pus, it was septic. It was from an ingrown nail or something, and I had to keep squeezing that out. I like this huge pad, like a boxing glove, on that toe.
Other than that, he's a picture of health. If you have an infected lung, you cough all day. Yeah? Surely. You can't go and pull a 70-kilogram bulk. It's like dragging 10 tires behind you, for 11, 12 hours. We did 12 hours today. It's just when he stops. As soon as he stops, he just goes berserk. And it really is debilitating for him, and I feel really, really sorry for him. It's really incredible to be in this vast wilderness of ice and snow. And just to be in that, and I think both Bram and I are reveling in it, We're taking it in, and we're constantly thinking how blessed we are to be able to do this in our lives. And very few people experience this. We just need to get Bram right. We need to get him right. I don't know how. Right from the beginning when we arrived, Bram was really battling with his chest and was coughing incessantly during the build-up phase to the altitude. And we weren't even on altitude yet. When we got to altitude, it got chronic.
The funny thing, there was no problem in the day. I'd be absolutely fine in the day. And as soon as I stopped, even for that 10-minute break, I'd start coughing. As soon as I was moving again, so of course the joke became don't stop. Which is not exactly practical. Basically, I don't look forward to stopping. So, I can't just keep going, because I need the rest. You have to have rest to do 35 Ks every day. But from my side, no matter what, I want to finish this thing. So I've got to just find solutions to stop this. The will is the way, I reckon.
At that stage, Bram was coughing so much that he didn't sleep for 3 nights. 3 or 4 nights, actually.
I think it was about day 3 of the race. I actually was at a point that I didn't know if I could make it.
And Bram even said to me, Peter, you know, I cannot continue this race if this continues. There's just no ways. I can't. Would you be able to join another team? And I said, Bram, that's not going to happen. We're going to fix this, okay? We need to get this sorted out. I'm crossing that finish line with you.
So 3 days movement and then 3 nights. And that 3rd night, Pete said, listen, we must actually not get up tomorrow. We must just stay in.
We actually woke up one morning and I said, Bram, you need today to rest. Otherwise, we're not going to finish this race. And it was a bit of a shock treatment for him.
It was just a huge mental shift for me. I just said to Pete, we've got to go. If I stop now, then I'm going to stop. So we've got to just keep going. And he said, I'm not in any condition to. So I said, well, let's just go and see.
I wanted to keep going because I was very freaked out that we would have to stop for 24 hours. And he actually said to me, Pete, no. We're going to go, but we're only going to do 24 Ks today instead of 35. And we're going to rest for an extra 4 or 5 hours. And that'll give him enough time to recoup. And it was very touch and go this morning about whether we needed to take a break or not, but one word came to Bram's mind, and he was talking about that just now, and that is courage. Just got to get up and do this thing.
And that day, it was very much talking to myself, like, I'm going to finish this. And it was a little bit like China in a way, with my knee issue. I just said, I'm going to finish no matter what. And it was like a self-hypnosis, if you like, I don't know, but I just was going to finish. It was a mindset.
And as it worked out, the race was postponed for 4 days in the beginning, and then the leaving time was brought forward 2 days, so 6 days out of the race. We wouldn't have made it if we had rested that day.
And I slowly started getting better, slowly, over about a week. And the last week of the race, I was just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I don't care what other people think. For me, it's absolutely mind over matter. Your mind can heal your body.
Bram and I made a commitment to each other, and it was a very serious commitment right in the beginning. It happened when he asked me to do this race, and I said I will do the race on condition that your focus on the race is me, you'll look after me, and I'll look after you. Because you get to a point in any big race like this where you are unable to see the things that are wrong with you, and you can't fix it. It takes somebody else to look at you and say, okay, you need fixing, okay. And I said, that's the condition that I will do it with you. And that was a big thing for us.
The race is hotting up. Later on today, we've got Team British Green coming in, perhaps as late as midnight tonight, so we'll stay up and make sure they're all fine. Soon behind them, we've got Bram and Pete, Team South Africa, doing brilliantly. We drove past them yesterday, as normal, in huge high spirits. They're getting tired, of course, and Pete has got a few problems with his face, and Bram is still coughing, but generally they're beginning to get race fit. They're getting used to the environment, they're getting used to the cold. They were mucking about yesterday, making us all laugh, but that's the key to doing well here. You have to stay focused and you have to stay positive with lots of good positive energy. At the moment, Team South Africa, as it stands, if they finish the race, will come third. That's incredible.
After 12 days of incredible hardship, we come over a rise, and what we see before us here is the halfway mark of the race and our compulsory 24-hour medical stopover. It just seems unbelievable that we're here. Rob and I have been talking about it for a long time now, for days, and we can't believe that it's here already.
How are you feeling, Pete?
Yeah, I must admit that I find the first session of every day, the first 3 hours, the hardest. And then it gets better and better, and then the last hour is very, very hard. But I'm feeling fine. Like I don't know if I'm, like the halfway mark is really important for me, but I know there's still a long way to go. We got a huge amount of go. There's a certain amount of relief of being here, but there's also the tension that, you know, we're only halfway. We've still got a long way to go. There's lots that can happen. As far as I'm aware, a few of the teams are really battling, have battled, and have pulled out, and are being taken forward. And as far as I know, I think we are the third fully intact team to get to the halfway mark out of 7. Woo-hoo! No, it's just a tip and a pat.
Checkpoint 1, Bram and Pete didn't care much about being in 4th position. For them, this was a race to finish, not to win. What they didn't know was just how close they were to actually winning at that point. The team just ahead of them, Team Centerpoint, had been eliminated from the race because of a medical emergency. So Bram and Pete were actually in 3rd position when they arrived at Checkpoint 1. And despite being days ahead of everyone else in the field, the furious pace of the Welsh and Norwegian teams was starting to take its toll. Both teams were in serious physical trouble. If they failed to finish the race, Bram and Pete would automatically win just by reaching the South Pole. But Antarctica is a cruel mistress and prefers to write her own scripts. 5. Heroes are selfless. If for some strange reason you'd like to become known as a selfless individual, you'll have to find a way to be completely devoid of self-interest. Including myself, I don't know of a single person, dog or cat that would choose to go through life without self-interest. Do you? Doctors are sworn to a code of ethics. Heroes are completely devoid of self-interest. And Antarctica is committed to crushing anything that attempts to live on the surface.
When we got to the halfway mark, we discovered that one of the team members of the British team, Centerpoint, Andrew, had fallen, actually passed out, had broken his arm, and was at the halfway mark with his team and wanting to continue the race.
I thought, this is it, it's over. But without the pulk and just skiing then, it's a lot better and I can use my arm. So I've just got to, you know, get used to the pulk again and start pulling it, and I'm going to have a go later on this afternoon because there's just no way I'm not going to do this race. I've just got to do it.
And the doctor actually approached me and he said, Pete, this team is not going to make the finish line without assistance. What do you think about catching up to them and assisting them?
The day of the rest day, it's the 16th. Looks like the British team are just ahead of us, but it's a shame because Andrew, very good skier actually, apparently collapsed and broke his shoulder. So it looks like they slowed down quite a bit. See what happens from here.
So yesterday, because of our routine had been mixed up by the 24-hour stop, we were all feeling really tired, and we had quite a short day, so we put the tent up, and Bram and Pete came past us. They stopped, and we had a really nice chat.
They were in their tent, busy sleeping, and we woke them up and we just said, look, this is the position.
They actually offered to Andrew to take the weight out of his pulk and for them to carry some of his stuff so that he could be as weight-free as possible.
If you want, we will carry your stuff from Andrew's sled and assist you, and we will walk together to the pole, but you must do it according to our speed and our shifts patterns and stuff like that, if you're interested.
So we've just been thinking about that and weighing up the options, and I mean, what an incredibly kind and spirited offer from them, and we may take them up on that offer.
And the next morning they came past us, and we heard them, we were half asleep, and they said, guys, we've left a note for you underneath your tent. You can read it and just let us know when you come past us later, you know, what your decision is. And we read the note.
Pete Brom had a tough one yesterday, and I think we'll need your kind offer very soon, if that's okay. Above all, we would love to ski into the finish with you guys as well. Gee, that's cool, eh? Pete, that's cool, eh?
It was very emotional stuff, but basically saying that they had an awful day the day before. Andrew's really struggling, and they would like to take us up on our offer, and it would be a privilege to ski into the pole with us.
Not sure how best we arrange, as we have started to ski later in line with our sked calls. But if you give us a shout when you go past, maybe that would be best.
We agreed that having an extra 15, 20 kilograms on top of the weight that we had on our sleds wouldn't be too bad, especially if we could assist a team to get to the finish line. We weren't going to win the race. They weren't going to beat us. It wasn't competition. It was, I think, what the true spirit of that race is all about.
It's fine, you can wake us, because one of us is always awake anyway because of all the snoring in our tent here. Cheers, safe skiing, Andrew, Ben and Jason.
It's just goosebump stuff, because you know, when your life's being threatened like that and you are in this incredibly tough environment, to pull together like that is it really is amazing. And it wasn't just about us helping them. That's what it started off being. But it turned out to be so much more. It turned out to be gaining 3 friends for life. It turned out to be so much more enjoyable, that last section of the race, because now we've got people around us.
I just want to say thanks to you guys, because I don't think we could have done today without you helping out with the weight.
No, we didn't even feel it. If you want to put more on our pulks, Brom's very, very happy here.
I might lie on yours, like.
At the end of today, we were a third of the way there, from the halfway mark.
That's good. Well, these are our first visitors that we've ever had in our tent.
On the race.
On the race. And this is Dr. Jason.
Hello.
And this is Andrew.
Hello.
Who is my new hero. He broke or dislocated or something, his shoulder. And he broke, eh?
Yeah.
And he's decided to continue to the end. I have no idea why, Andrew. Do you want to tell us why?
Because it's something I've always wanted to do. I've worked really hard to do it. 4.5 months ago, I badly broke my arm and recovered from it just in time for the race. And I'm not going to let this stop me. And you know, we're trying to raise £250,000 for Centenary, and I've got to do it. There's no way I'm not going to do it.
Tell us about Centenary.
So Centenary are a charity that's dear to all our hearts. They completely transform young homeless people's lives in London and the North East. They're tiny charity, tiny. So you know, the money that we're raising has a massive impact on them, and they're a great bunch of guys, and they really do change young people's lives and sort them out.
Here comes Pete. We've got half an hour to go. On day 14. It's really hard going. Temperature today about minus 34. this morning, please.
No worries.
I remember sitting down once on my pulk at a break. We had been sitting there for 10 minutes. So one of our stops. This is 7 days before we get to the finish. I think everybody's feeling a little bit tired. And my hands were so cold that I couldn't move them. I really could not move them, and they were in pain. And I was trying to eat and trying to drink, and I couldn't. I needed to take my hand out of the mitt to get food so that I could use my fingers. And I took it out, and I remember taking some food and putting it in, and as I put my hand back in and tightened my glove, I thought, okay, I'm in serious trouble now. I'm not going to be able to put up a tent. I cannot move my hands, so now I can't get warm. And if you get into that state now, you can't put up a tent, you can't light your stoves, you can't do anything. You're going to freeze solid within minutes. And you're going to die. We got 10 Ks left for today. And I think we'll all be very happy when that's done.
Tough morning, really, this morning. It's typical, isn't it? You have an okay day, and for no apparent reason, today's been terrible. So I've been holding on for dear life. But the break is close.
Is it?
And I'm looking forward to my hot chocolate, my frozen cheese, my frozen salami, and getting on with the day, really.
Well, here we are. This is another sort of checkpoint, transition point. We've had to stay out of an American exclusion zone, and so we've had a 45-kilometer detour around this point. This is one of the GPS points that were given to us at the beginning of the race, and we're here now. We can head straight for the pole. Very exciting. Woohoo! Yeah. Today was a really tough day. We, for some reason, had about 22 kilometers of uphill, like gradual uphill. If one uphill was quite steep. But whoever says Antarctica is flat is incorrect. There's no doubt about it that there's like these huge frozen massive swells. Like you get out at sea, and it's been heartbreaking, and we're exhausted. But it's 3 more tent setups, and then we'll be at the South Pole. I'm almost wishing these 3 days away. In fact, I definitely am, because I know they're going to be absolutely grueling. Not 3 days, 4 days. I'm looking forward to getting them done. And the altitude again, because we're so high, I don't know, I thought we were supposed to get lower down to the pole. Seems like we're getting higher. My chest is starting to play up again.
And how are you feeling physically at the moment?
Physically, I'm feeling I go through patches during the day. That's why it's such a mind thing. You know, in the last session, I started off the last session thinking, oh goodness, I don't know if I can do another, 3.5, 4 hours of this. And about an hour into it, I just got into my own steam and just cruised. I didn't even think about it. But at the end of the session, I was absolutely finished. So we need to rest and eat now to gain some strength for tomorrow.
fine gentlemen doing out here in this miserable, God-forsaken place on a day like this?
We took a wrong turn back at the drive-through.
Where you guys headed anyway?
We're not sure. We're really not sure.
Okay. This is the British team that are going to be making Pete and I a cheeseburger, according to Ben, at the South Pole. And this is Doc Jason, that's kind of looking after everybody. Wow. He is. He's just pumping us full of vitamins, if you know what I mean. And that's Andrew over there. Sterling young man, because he broke his arm and he is still heading south. Crazy if you ask me, but on the other side, very admirable. How are you feeling today, Andrew?
Much better than yesterday.
Better than yesterday?
Yesterday was my day from hell. So it's really cold and my arm just was talking to me a lot of pain.
Does it freeze up at all or not?
Yeah, it just went really cold. I couldn't feel it and it was just throbbing and you can't think of anything else except for the pain. So yesterday was a tough day. But today the sun is with us, the wind is with us.
And you seem in better spirits.
I seem in better spirits. We are skiing with two fellow South Africans and it's going to be great.
Well, here we are on the 27th of January. It's our second last day of this extremely strenuous race, 745 kilometers in all. We're sitting here at around minus 40 in the middle of absolutely nowhere, literally, with our new British friends. And we finish the race tomorrow. This is our last snack break before we put our tent up for the very last time. I thought I was feeling exhilarated, but I'm not yet. It's just too darn cold. But it's been great company having these chaps along with us. And I just can't wait to finish. It's almost unreal. I still can't believe that it's going to be over tomorrow.
I can.
You can hardly see the trail anymore in this light.
Me.
Feel that? You feel that? Yeah. That is the biggest one. That was the biggest one we felt.
What's that? Very loud. What was it?
The whole ground just shook right now. And there's obviously the top surface of the snow and ice moving. Unbelievable. Feels like a little semi-earthquake.
Ron, how are you?
So what's a nice boy like you doing out in a day like this?
How you going? How's Andrew?
Andrew is doing phenomenally well for the kind of space he's in.
I am completely hanging on for dear life. I'm completely exhausted, tired. Every step is agony, but every step is closer to the pole and my dream and my goal. So I'm just continuing, toughening out, thinking about my family, my kids, really thinking about those guys, get me through each day, and I'm nearly there. So I'm just, every minute is closer to the pole for me at the moment, so I just can't wait to get there.
We did like 4 hours 4.5. We did 13.6 for our first stint this morning. Second last stint before the pole. They drag behind quite a lot, but that's fine, eh? It's absolutely fine. We stop when we're ready, and then they come and they make up the distance. But I've been as strong as an ox, eh?
Last few days have been quite testing, sort of sting in the tail. There have been some. Whoever says that Antarctica is flat is talking nonsense. Just this morning we had a 12-kilometer, like quite serious uphill. But physically feeling fine. I'm exhausted. Looking forward to getting in tomorrow. It's been great having Team Centrepoint with us. They've been really amazing to have around, and it's been such a privilege to be able to just spend the last sort of week with them.
Yeah, we're all doing good. And it's a day and a half, but 2 days of skiing left. We're just feeling more relief than anything. And also in the back of our minds, just hoping that nothing goes wrong and we can make it. We've got 49 kilometres to go. So, worst case, we could try and do it in one push, but hopefully we'll have one more sleep, one more nice last supper this evening with horrible frozen dried food. And then we hit the pole sometime 4 or 5 o'clock on the 28th, a couple of hours early.
We've made 3 new friends for life, and looking forward to finishing the race with them tomorrow.
I'm really well, actually. The only thing is my feet have just started to hurt over the last couple of days. They've been swelling and getting really, really cold as the temperature drops as we approach the pole. So cold fingers and toes, but apart from that, absolutely fine.
It's something that I didn't expect. The closer we've got to the pole, the colder it's got. And just now, at this last little stop, it's been really, really cold. I've put this little cloth up on the side here to stop the wind coming in from the side, even though I've got balaclavas and everything on. It's freezing today. It must be minus 35, minus 40.
In the last 4 or 5 days, you kind of think it's still a long way to go. It's a long way to go. And then we got the call that the whole thing had been pulled forward a day because of a weather front coming in. And we said, so what? So we'll still do it. But then the pressure was on, and as I've always said, it's a race against time. It's a race for the planet. It's a race for our children in the future. But it has literally now become for us a race against time. We've got to be there 6 a.m. on the 28th, and we're going to be there.
Even if the race cutoff was pushed back by another day, and the South Pole miraculously shifted by 200 kilometers overnight, I know and believe that Bram and Pete would have still made it, regardless of how much excess baggage they chose to drag along with them. These two only seem to wake up when tough becomes really tough. It's like happy hour for them, because they get to push themselves, always further than the last time, to the point where you'd rather want to watch childbirth. Pete's response to my dumbfounded why went something like this: because it doesn't feel like you're in a race until you're hurt, really hurt, more than you did in the race before. I don't know if it was the fear in my eyes, but Pete quickly added, it's not about feeling the pain, it's about beating it. This idea of beating pain remained a mystery to me until a good friend offered a different explanation. When you reach the point where it's almost impossible to put one foot in front of another, everything that matters in your life will make sense. Heroes always go the distance, no matter how far. Heroes don't feel distance the way we do, and they don't care for obstacles like time limits. When they start something, it's as good as done. But how? How do they do it? How do they always manage to get to the end? What is it that drives these men from A to impossibly far away B? Again, it was Pete that provided the answer.
That's my little girl. So I've dedicated today to Hannah and to Kim. Let's go.
When Hannah mama gave this to me. She said to me, Dad, every night when you're out at sea, look up at the stars. And when you look at the stars, I will also look at the stars at night. And then if we look at the same stars, now they're different stars because I'm in the northern hemisphere. But she didn't know that. She says I must think of her.
This very special little stone was given to me by my son. It was in a letter. At the end of the letter, he says, Dad, it's my lucky stone. Every time you touch it, just remember how much you have to be grateful for. And it accompanies me everywhere. I take it if I go on a talk to Johannesburg, it goes in my toiletry bag, goes next to my bed in the hotel. Pretty much every morning or every evening I would touch a little stone and remember how much I have to be grateful for and actually articulate that. During the day even, I'd say, well, my health, the gifts I've been given, my son, my home. And amazing for me that a young boy at that time, 17 years old, could have such a profound yet simple view of life.
Yeah, we've seen it for the last 20 kilometers and it just doesn't seem to get closer.
It's overwhelming. I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. You can just see it. And this is what you've been working for so long.
It looks like quite a monstrosity, to be honest, after all the purity and nothingness of this incredible wilderness.
It does look quite ugly though.
Seriously happy to see it.
Well, the most exciting thing is that about half an hour ago, someone put the kettle on because the steam's coming out of the building. So it should be a nice warm cup of tea when we get there.
I just can't believe it's here. We're just so close now.
It's not about the end point, it's about the journey that we've been on. And that's the most important thing for me.
It's going to be magical when we get there.
It's something that's going to be etched in my mind forever.
We've been on an incredible journey, regardless of whatever is at the end. That's the best thing.
Okay, so we're at the southernmost tip of our planet, and we spent the last 30 days trekking across Antarctica to get to the South Pole. Here we are at last. The day has come. We are 2 kilometers away from the finish. Now I know that there have been a few South Africans that have skied to the pole, but I feel totally privileged to be part of a 2-man South African team to have skied in this centenary race to the South Pole, 100 years after Scott and Amundsen.
Robert Scott.
Well, shall we?
Shall we, yeah.
The last time. I think this race, for me, in my opinion, is the toughest endurance race on the planet because this is pure survival. I mean, if you make a mistake at any stage of the race and you leave things too long, you will die. Not only is it far every day, and not only is it just completely Groundhog Day-ish all the time and lonely and isolated and deprived of life and views, and everything is harsh. The sun is harsh, the temperature is harsh. It's incredible. But having said that, it is also one of the most incredible places on the planet to be. It's one of those, if I hadn't survived it, it would have been the worst story on the planet. But I have survived it. And when I look back now, I'm already missing it. Oh, yeah. And I suppose what I'm missing is the triumph of getting in.
It's an hour and a half before the cut-off. The plane's already landed at Camp 100, ready to take the remaining competitors home after this epic South Pole race. And as you can see behind me, Team British Green and Bram and Pete, South African team, are 1 kilometre from the South Pole now. They're really cutting it fine. It's coming right down to the wire. I certainly hope they're going to be okay. We're going to follow them into the pole, make sure they're fine, get them on the plane and get them home.
It looked like a brick on the horizon. And eventually this thing got closer and closer and closer. And it was almost surreal. It was like in a dream. I was very much in a dream state. It was, this can't be finishing.
It's going to be brilliant skiing across the finish line with you guys, and a privilege.
It has been an absolute privilege.
This journey, and I really look at it as a journey, not a race, has been very much one for me of humility.
It's not about bravery, it's not about courage, it's not about me.
I'm so alive. I feel so alive about life.
It's like a love story.
I have a purpose.
When you get home, you love your wife more than you've ever loved her. You love your child more than you've ever loved her.
I was just thinking to myself over and over, how much in my life do I have to be grateful for?
When you come back, everything's different.
With absolute commitment and conviction to live out my life to its fullest potential from here on out.
You realize the fragility of life, and it just makes you want to appreciate things more.
7. Heroes don't cry. Not for any reason whatsoever. That's why you never see them shedding tears. Unless, of course, it's tears of joy.
Sure, babe. I really love you. I don't think I've loved anyone ever as much as you and Ben. I can't wait to be with you again.
Hannah, you are the most beautiful thing in my life. Everything that I do because of you. I love you to Beetlejuice and back.
Bram and Pete didn't win the race to the South Pole. But history doesn't celebrate great men and women for the things they did or didn't do. It remembers you for the things you didn't have to do. That's also what makes a hero out of ordinary people like Bram Malherbe and Peter Van Ketz. As for my quest, well, I found much more than a hero in Bram and Pete. I found what I was actually looking for, my purpose.
There are ships out there when there are times that nobody's on the bridge deck. You know, nobody is listening to, because every ship.
You deal with the penguin, I'll get the girl. Okay! That's the penguin dealt with, Batman!
Robin,
what now?
to the Batmobile!
To the Batmobile!